Welcome to another episode of the MI podcast. Today we have with me Hamza Chitalwalla. Hi Hamza, how are you?
Thank you so much for having me, Nikhil. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm also doing good. So Hamza, where are you joining us from?
So I'm from Mumbai, a small place area called Bandra West in Mumbai, full of nice cafes, restaurants, and places to hang. Been here since the last 14 years now, and it just feels like home. So not moved much from Mumbai.
That's right, that's right. I think a common question when you said mention Bandra West, people asking you like which celebrities are your neighbors basically.
Yeah, actually, quite a few of them. So, where I stay, I'm right down a hill called Pali Hill.
Pali
So,
area.
once you go up, you have like Ranbir, Alia staying, the Kapoor family. And then if you go a little ahead towards like Bandstand, you have both Salman Khan, Shah Rukh Khan right next to each other. So, yeah, but you don't get to see a lot of it. Like, it's not like I'll go out today walking on the road and I'll see any one of them. So yeah, a lot of celebrities, a lot of struggling actors and models trying to make a mark here, build a career. But
That's right.
yes, it is.
So
I would say you
that
can call it
obviously
like the
it becomes
celebrity.
normalized for you, but it's an intriguing thing. Like when people hear
Hmm.
it, then they'll be like, "Okay, who did you see? Have you visited? Do you know anyone?"
Yeah,
People look at connections and all
yeah,
that
I
kind
get
of.
that. I get that a lot.
That's right. Yes,
Yes.
yes, that is kind of interesting. But I obviously have been in that area. If you remove the celebrity thing, obviously to live also, it's a great area. I think one of the most aspirational places people want to purchase a house like when they've made it here. And great, you have your,
Yes.
I think, obviously the bandstand. And I think which are the interesting areas we've seen that mainly people are kind of visiting and coming.
Inside Bandra, so what's been happening, I think, since the past few years now, because of a lot of foreigners, coming to Bombay and just staying over here, especially in this area. A lot of other, youth, modernized, things are sort of coming up. You have a lot of new cafes, a lot of new ideas, a lot around sustainability happening, and everyone just sort of joining a trend. So you have, I think, a mix of both. Like you have the high end restaurants as well, while as you also have the street food, and then you have like nice libraries and galleries to visit, stuff to do on the weekends. You can just take a walk on Cart Road or Bandstand and then just enjoy a good sunset. So all of that is happening. Like you'll find a mix of everything, and that's the reason why I love staying here so much.
That's right. I think churches as well as I think St. Andrew's Auditorium also there and many
Yes.
places culturally
Mount
also there.
Mary, St. Andrews, yes.
That's right. That awesome place. And awesome. So Hamza, a little bit professionally about you, if you could tell the audience.
Sure. So my name is Hamza Chitalwalla, and I currently work as a podcast coach. So I just help people try to figure out themselves in this industry that's currently growing at a very rapid pace. Apart from that, I have my own podcast on Spotify called Out of the Hood with Hamza, which is basically based on personal journals, like people's stories who've taken a very different route in their life and not gone the stereotypical traditional way. And I also currently work on a new project which is coming up in Lower Parel. Don't want to reveal much, but basically it's an exciting place for kids to be. It's basically going to be a museum. So that's what I'm working on right now. I started podcasting back in the pandemic, so it's been 3 years now, and it's just something that I really care about, I'm passionate about, because I believe that everyone has a story to share and a voice to communicate it with, and podcasting is the modern day tool that people can sort of utilize, to get their story apart. And yeah, that's about it, I think so.
That's right. That's very interesting. Hamza, I think when I was just kind of discussing with you earlier, also informally, where I'd kind of mentioned where you have podcasting, it is a kind of a integral part of your marketing because event marketing is becoming a major part of the marketing. Whether
Yeah.
you have an online event, offline events, and various ways you organize it, bring an audience, try to get leads from their
Hmm.
sales and all. So in terms of podcasting, you what do you feel in terms of opportunities, like as a podcaster, for people who kind of join companies, or you are doing some kind of project for them? How does podcasting look options in terms of projects or full-time employment?
So I think the way for it right now is to be like super explorative. Like if you kind of try to fit it in our traditional marketing boxes, you'll find it a little difficult. But what I've realized is like people who are interested in this field, they go ahead, learn it, sort of create something out of it, and then they, like, for example, let's say if there is somebody working as a senior marketing manager or something like that, and today he'll have someone on his team come and suggest that, a podcast say we'll be able to sort of bring this message to the audience.
Mhm.
And now I feel like people are becoming more accustomed to accepting these ideas. And also with the whole aspect of it now becoming very easy to do in terms of money, time, and everything, a lot of people are accepting it. So that is one thing. Professionally in the corporates, it's being accepted. Freelancers, a lot of work that's coming in, in the audio engineering, video editing space. Today every content creator you speak to, he's trying to build a team of people in audio and video who can make that entire process easy, of podcasting or content creation. So that's a space, the freelancers who are involved. And as a podcaster, generally multiple, I would say, like if you're in a particular zone, whatever it may be, like you talk about fashion, you talk about fitness, starting a podcast and communicating with people builds a credibility and trust that is much required in today's time, when you have people on the internet scamming you and fleecing you all the time. So that becomes very important. And there are multiple ways now today to monetize your podcast ahead also. So that whole idea before that,
That's right.
okay, if I start a podcast, how do I actually make money out of it, that sort of question mark is now gone.
That's right.
So it's about you taking your niche and just integrating it into
That's right.
podcasting in any
And
possible
it's
way.
kind of interesting where you see these founders of, large unicorns also, they are
Yep.
having their own podcast. I mean, if anyone asks the question of the importance of it for your branding per se, you can see what they are doing. And for them, their every hour is so valuable, and they are putting in, say, 3 4 hours in a particular podcast. So that shows, where marketing is
Right.
going, and where branding and all these things are kind of effective. Mainly, I talk about it in
Yes.
a ways that people are tired of, this kind of salesy, communication or advertising per se. So where you are having three things: you're entertaining, educating, and informing your audience. So somewhere or the podcast, it
Yeah.
captures all these elements per se. Aw-
Absolutely.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
Hamza, in terms of, let's come to the basic thing, like what this podcast is about personal branding per se in the marketing scheme of things. So how do you look at it as an effective tool, like certain specific pointers if you want to give the audience, like how you can use this and to grow your personal brand per se?
Okay. Uh, I would like to explain it rather through an example, because I think that'll be like the best way for the audience to actually get like a live example of how it helped me. So now when it comes to your personal brand today, when anyone asks you, I think whenever you sort of talk about it, it is primarily the only thing that differentiates you from everyone else in the market or the rat race out there. The minute you build a solid personal brand, it increases your chances of getting a deal, getting the job, or just making a big impact, according to me personally. So there's this story of back, I think in 2021, wherein I had applied for an internship with Maharashtra Tourism, and it was basically for a business development internship role. And I had just started podcasting. It had been like 1 year in, and I was working directly under the team of Aditya Thackeray. So like these people were like doing real groundwork and really big impact in the city. And the application process was put on Twitter. So that's where one of my professors saw it and he sent it to me and he said, Hamza, go apply for this internship. It'll really help you out, and he put it out there. And I was like, might as well do it. And I go for the interview. I clear the first round, and in the interview, then I speak to an IAS officer who was basically my boss, and we were talking. And in the interview, I was asking questions about me, my personality, what I'll do, how can I contribute to the organization, etc., etc. And then I just told him, what I do with my whole podcasting thing. And after a week or so, I get an email saying that you've been shortlisted, and I get to know that the application process had somewhere around 1,000 applications from all over the country for this internship, but only 15 people were hired. And from 15 people, there was only one or two internship positions for the business development role, which I got. So solely basis a skill, this thing that you've used in order to communicate better, build your personality, talk to people, and your ability to convince someone that, I'm the dude who can get the job done, is very possible with podcasting, and its root in building your personal brand. Okay, like today we know that Nikhil is the go-to person with X kind of marketing, let's say digital marketing, as we know. The same way, like the kind of personal brand I've built with podcasting to be like a coach in this industry, the same way you can use it to build as a fitness influencer or somebody in fashion, and someone who's just created such a distinct identity and communicated it the same way that it's become very profitable for you, like in terms of your brand also, and in terms of making money also. So I think clearly it's all about differentiation when it comes to podcasting.
That's right. Yeah, differentiation is, I mean, so important because, like, when you mentioned there were like 1,000 applicants, how do they kind of differentiate? And everyone with, I mean, today tools in AI, you can, in terms of what you're writing in your resume or what you kind of showcase, it's kind of
Exactly.
highly manipulated. But somewhere it, with the podcasting, it builds that credibility. Also, is your distribution, yeah, how you design those events, how do you kind of market them, how do you use social media. So it's a proof is in the pudding basically when you are seeing that guy. So I'm hiring
Yes.
somebody professionally to do these podcasts, and I'm seeing at maybe at a much smaller level organically he's kind of getting the same thing done. It builds my confidence that, yeah, okay, if I
Hmm.
give him a budget, he can grow it to, say 5x 6x from where it is, because
Correct.
he's at least doing something and getting an audience with, in terms of an organic space. So yeah, because then I feel podcasting, this is also another thing, maybe Hamza, you can point out to the audience, like what are the different skill sets does it build?
Okay, great. Yeah, that's actually one of like one very good question, and it would really help in order to communicate that. Yeah. So there are multiple. Primarily, I would say one would be your communication skills. Like point on when you keep on making more podcasts and start talking to people behind the scenes and also outside, you become a better communicator because you just build confidence in your diction and pronunciation and all of that. Second, I would say network. Building a network is a skill that today you need to know because, as they say, like you're the average of the five people you roam around with. I 100% agree to that. Right? So it allows you to talk and find the right people and connect very valuable connections with them. Like how, for example, we connected and today we're on a podcast. So that's number two. I would say it builds your personality in every aspect. So from the way you talk to the way you dress to the way you carry yourself, walk into a room, all of that changes. And I have like personally felt that when I started doing sessions with audiences in front of me, I realized that the whole thing has become so easier. Like you become a better public speaker, uh,
Hmm.
you know and then when it comes to behind the scenes, you become technically savvy because you learn the nitty gritties of like editing video, audio, how to use the right mic and stuff. You learn how to write a script, so you become a better copywriter, I would say. uh, you know so these are five like major skills that you learn, and apart from that, like there are a lot of other things, like it can be a whole podcast episode by itself. So yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Like in the personal end, you become a better conversationist. You know to how to kind of approach people,
Mhm.
how to kind of convince them. The follow up process, which I think in everything you do nowadays, there are certain skills like this come technically. Obviously, the part of the back end, the editing, you getting the reels out of it, also ideating of what kind of content would be there, because I feel those things come a little bit later, but then they become important where your channel is growing up to a certain level and you want to take it to the next level, then you have to keep kind of
Right.
working on those kind of skills. So yeah, there are many, like we both have been kind of to and fro about this, but like it's there are so many things within that
Hmm.
to grow. I think because personal brand is also like, it's not something separate, it is a part of you, only that a personal brand is something that is being projected. So who you are, maybe that is the core. Then if it reaches to 100 people, 1,000 people, or 10,000 people, that is at the core. These things, they improve you, and that gives you that.
Yeah.
Which the content, obviously, it goes out there and it goes to more people basically in your TG. Awesome. Hamza, so in terms of, obviously, everyone will have a certain thing they want to communicate, whether to their domain or something they enjoy, or they want to talk about something, or some kind of message they want to give. How do you kind of your content, your you align it so that your TG, it is kind of something that they enjoy? It one could be
Hmm.
obviously general, entertaining, interesting content, and one could be like focused in a domain.
Yeah. Oh, the thing with this is I have a little different opinion than some of the marketers out there. Like a lot of people, when you start your content journey, and people who have a good number of followers, tell you that there needs to be standardization, and follow like aesthetically, you have that grid, make it look good and all. But I'm little of the opposite. I feel like you build trust and you get your audience to really follow you when you show your personality in, like, holistically. Like, not just, okay, as a podcaster, if today on Instagram I just kept on putting content or my clippings of my podcast, I don't think I would be happy, nor would my audience, because they would always feel like I'm out there selling something. So I try to sort of involve everything of my personality. So whether that's my music or fitness reels and stuff like that, it's more like a vlog or like a day-to-day thing in my life. So people know, like, okay, when he's not podcasting, this is what he's doing, and that's how this is getting transformed into the podcast as well.
Hmm.
Like, they
That,
understand you as a human being and your personality, rather than just an identity on social media. So I would say that is like the most important thing right now, to make sure that you build that trust amongst your audience initially. And then, anyways, if you want to offer anything to them, they'll always take it, once they have your trust. So that's the most important. Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, I feel within this, like obviously when I'm my designing the events would be, there are certain aspects where like say I'm talking about marketing, so it would be into different kind of industries, your techniques, what is trending, what
Mhm.
it would be also a little bit mainstream,
Mhm.
right? You can't go too technical, like you can't go like into
Mhm.
SEO, what are the on page, off page, that will get a little
Yeah.
bit boring. Like you have to have a fine line between what is your domain and also what is mainstream within it, what people are talk about. If you want to kind of reach out to a particular a little bit larger audience, they would be find it, because at the end of the day we are in your course that can be very technical, but a podcast has to be something a little bit more lighter, because if a person is
Mhm.
going to hear it for a half an hour
Yeah.
or an hour that kind of have to be the interesting point you made, Hamza, that
Mhm.
you also something about your own life, like your what you do on a regular basis, how do you are in different situations, bit of vlogging. um, how do you feel like in terms of like, so if a person is in a domain only, so he's not a general lifestyle influencer or a vlogger, how does that become
Mhm.
important?
Uh, okay, so like, you mean to say in terms of aligning it with your identity, like your brand identity?
That's right. Like, how is it important? Say, so if somebody is a finance, like an
Hmm.
influencer, he's also posting about
Hmm.
maybe a trip he had somewhere. He had a vacation somewhere, or he went
Hmm.
somewhere and had a session which maybe it was
Hmm.
not related to finance or something. Some kind of
Yeah.
interesting or
Yeah.
incident he's sharing, or something motivational. How does all that content also tie into his main core that is there?
Yeah, super interesting. I think this is like a new kind of challenge coming in the content creation space. What I see, so what I've realized is there is a possibility and a way in to seep in your main domain. Let's say for finance, for this person we're talking about, into your day to day life. Like, I've seen. I don't, you must have seen these reels as well. Like, for example, he's on a trek, right? And
Hmm.
he's put like a good trending song, and instead of like talking about the trek, he's just like giving you like the top three like finance tips or something. in that
Hmm.
same video, and
Yeah,
they found a really nice way to mix it up and get it done. So I would like be like subtly put your message in and then sort of allow that to like seep into your audience. Like Gary Vee always says, that it's like hook punch or something like that. So you
yeah.
give three value nuggets and then you make like an offer kind of a thing. And at the same time you kind of have that brand identity in your head that okay, this is what I do. I don't have to like, if I'm at A, I don't have to go and like talk about Z, but I can still talk about B, C, and D. That
That's
kind of a
it.
thing is like important. Not going really out of it, but like maintaining it in that same area or genre that you follow.
That's right. Yes, I feel obviously there are few aspects in this. One, some people are very comfortable in that they can
Hmm.
share their personal space, and that also comes out. And
Yeah.
maybe in a way, it can be for your TG also they know a little bit more about you personally, right? Like even when like say I've done sales, all the discussion is not about the deal it's per se. You are talking about and you're trying to get to know about. So it that gains a kind of a trust from that. So that angle is there, and maybe within
Hmm.
your content creation there can be pieces within that. Like I'm definitely seeing at least macro level content creators, they are going in that space. They look at different kind of content, and even in the personal there'll be a lot of BTS content. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
that is there. But if
Hmm.
someone is not maybe comfortable with that and it's just kind of this thing, then the suggestion you gave where you are maybe say like the finance guy,
Yeah.
he's in just a different setting, right? It's a different kind of like a
Right.
selfie video when he's somewhere out and he's talking about something
Hmm.
trending within finance at that time. So yeah, the different, it's
Correct.
like a different
Hmm.
setting that you are in. Maybe the content is specific to your TG only. So that is there.
Yeah.
You we also are noticing like the people, they are hopping on like a podcast would be started. I think someone is in a particular domain like finance or sales, but then now they've become that popular that they can now go into other things also. They are feeling it's kind of saturating to
Yeah.
what we can. So we have to look at other things, which we are kind of noticing a lot of
Correct.
in almost the ones who are reaching like a celebrity level, like a million plus followers and all. So yeah, kind of be
Yes. Yes.
always open to it. I feel as a influencer, it's like a every
Hmm.
day. It's a review every day, and what you kind of connect with your audience and what you can kind of change in that. Awesome. So, Hamza, we can
Hmm.
talk about like specifically when you're starting off, the first steps that you have to take within your podcast. Like so, what did you do when you decided? Okay, I want to start when. Like, if you could just take us through a little bit of that journey.
Got it. So when I started, I had no clarity, to be honest, with anyone. Like I couldn't even find one like online coach or someone who could clearly tell me. Like there were a lot of people talking about podcasting, but nobody could guide me like the baby step way. And that is one of the reasons today I decided to be that coach, for myself and for everyone else. I did a lot of research and it came down to, I would say, certain basic elements that you need to have answers for when you start your podcast, right? So first you need to know what the topic is going to be, like which industry do you want to talk about, like what is it going to be like a conversation based one, or is it going to be a mix, or what is that? So your topic is the main, I would say, the core of it. Then going on to a little more technical details, so I would say figure out what you want to call it, go online, research if there are other podcasts with the same name. Like these are really like, the baby steps, like the action steps you would take, I would say, to start your podcast that I'm talking about. And then I would be like, figure out how you want it to look like, what should be the theme be, the aesthetics, the colors you want to use, then figure out your audience, like which age group are they going to fall into, which cities are they from, a little bit of the demographical stuff. That would be three. Then as I said, the format, whether you want to do it solo with two guests or multiple guests, and the fifth that I also teach in my course is the frequency, because a lot of people starting a podcast may not necessarily be doing it full time, or as freelancers. A lot of them might be people like at jobs, right? So you need to figure out how do you give it that time. So the frequency, so am I putting a podcast every 2 days, am I putting one every week, am I putting one every month, so all these questions should be answered. Five basic elements: topic, title, audience, format, and frequency. And then the rest gets figured out as you progress according to.
Awesome. So Hamza, in terms of this was obviously a certain theoretical part also. These are the actual for
Hmm.
you personally. What were the major, the challenge that was there? Few things which would be a reference point for people who are starting off the podcast, and maybe they don't
Hmm.
have that many of say personal connects or professional connects, and they want to obviously start
Yeah.
some guest episodes also, do that
Okay.
with people. So what would be some things you face challenge and how you overcame them?
Right. So how I started my podcast was obviously personal journals. I had claimed it to be, but I was doing a lot of solo content initially because I
Hmm.
had the same struggle that okay, पहला episode अगर मैं कर रहा हूँ, who do I invite on it? Like,
That's
who's
right.
somebody I know in my circle whose story is very
That's right.
inspiring and
This
different,
is a very important
So
point. I
finding
want
that person
to
was.
tell the audience that when you are starting, you
Mhm.
have to create solo episodes, because if you are, I'm trying to call anyone, unless that guy is my friend, he'll want to see something, right? Like, forget the views and
Yes,
all. There are certain episodes I've done. It's on YouTube. It's on Spotify. If I'm recorded that, whether it's explainer or I'm just doing it live or whatever, at least there has to be so certain, and it will build your skills also in terms of as a presenter or the editing part of it, or
correct.
the designing various elements of it. So that is one thing. Just want to tell that you have to start off a little bit solo content and then you go to guesting them.
100%, 100%. Also, that confidence that you need to talk to like a guest, like वो खाली तभी आएगा जब आप you practice it by yourself.
Yeah.
Even the technicalities. Like I remember the first time I had called an audience, I didn't know what I was doing, like with my own systems that I had been using. It was like I was kind of scared also. A little embarrassed. Because in front of a guest, I was like, dude, how does this work, kind of thing. So you need that practice to sort of just allow it to fit in and find your niche and your space. So that was one challenge. Then when I was reaching out to new people, again, as you said, you're very right when you said that credibility was not there because I'd done like 5 6 episodes and people were not sure. You can't just slide into their DMs and be like, I want you on my podcast. Very
Hmm.
few people will trust you and be like, yeah, that's fine. Even right now, actually, it happens when I reach out to new people, right? And now that my studio is at home, it kind of can become difficult at times, for people coming from different areas or cities to come on your show. So that
Yeah.
credibility only came when I practiced that. That was not one challenge. Again, a technical challenge I would say is figuring out what equipment you want to use. I know as podcasters we keep on having that conversation, and each one of the other asks the other one, what do you use, and we try to figure out our systems. But that is a technical challenge, figuring out your equipment. But now I think it's become easier with the kind of tools that are available in the market and also on the internet. That's there. Then I would say really something that I was pondering on a lot before starting was actually my, like, what do I talk about, right? And that's going to be your number one question for the podcast. How do you do it?
Hmm.
I would say don't get fixated too much on your beginning wala topic or your format that you want to follow. What will happen is you'll test it out, you'll realize if it works or not for you. Like you'll do a few episodes and you'll be like, okay, ye nahi chal raha, I'll have to change my topic or change the name or change the cover art to get in more people. So learn with those mistakes, and as you progress, I would say don't go with like a fixed mind, because anyways it's in a industry wherein people are still exploring, according to me.
Hmm.
So go with a very open mind, I would say, for anyone starting out. Yeah.
That's right. I would suggest, like, if you are like just starting off and you are in college and although I think what you are majorly studying, you can talk about that. That is
Hmm.
the first thing, or you maybe have a field you are working in that particular field, because at least it's a starting point. Because it could be difficult for you unless you have been in front of camera, or in terms of acting or presenting or performing, that to talk on certain topics which are a little bit like personal level, or somewhere where a lot of the emotion base is involved, and this thing, or you're talking about certain thing, it could be controversial. So but that confidence only comes where
Yeah.
a good base you have had. So the base, I think, would start. And plus, if you are studying on something, like you are into your development, you're talking about that, so that will at least increase your knowledge also, because you look up a lot of content on that and then design content. So that's a great thing for you. Another format I think now is
Yes.
becoming popular is where you're doing a lot of research on a particular topic, and then you talk about it. Like you have Dhruv Rathi, which is like the biggest influencer in the space,
Hmm.
just based on research, and then he gives
Hmm.
you It's not an
Yeah.
opinion. It's basically he just talks about, he puts out fact, actual kind of a journalism kind of thing. So those are kind of really
Mhm.
interesting, and then motivational, which everybody wants, where it can be kind of drafted in a way it's more interesting
Hmm.
than the general ones,
Yeah.
like the way they're talking. So interesting. I even see people, they do skits. I think that is more into content creation, but also they call in those interesting people who have achieved in different fields and all, and they're ready to kind of come
Hmm.
down and share their views. So quite a few things within
Hmm.
that. So um, your basically, when you talk about your particular TG, how important is it, Hamza, to kind of design that? Like when you are, for other than domain people like me, like say we are talking about marketing or finance or something specific, how do you kind of
Hmm.
specifically point out, okay, this is a TG for me, and this is what going beyond say just the gender or the age and all that, what other things are you looking at within your TG? Because very important, because if you've studied your TG fully, only you will be able to create content to attract them, and they engage with you more.
Yeah, yeah. Very important, yes, for sure. TG is somewhere in the beginning of my journey, I had really worked it out, where I put in points down as to, okay, this is my age group, and I think it's going to be heard more by this gender, or more people are going to come from metropolitan cities because I'm talking about really advanced information, or, like for example, if I talk about something in the spirituality or this space, I think that cuts out like a majority of our population who has no idea about it.
Hmm.
Today you have podcasters like Ranveer Alabadia. Whatever he's doing is great, but like he's coming up with these topics, and like he's having Indian audiences really sit and listen, through these 1 hour 2 hour podcasts, which is like amazing. And I think he's done the best kind of work with his target audience in really understanding like who are these Indians and where do they come from, and why they interested in this kind of mythology wala podcast or some other science based podcast. So I would say, think above and beyond age and like gender and city. I
Hmm.
did that and I kind of understood, but it's more about like relatability and how can I even have some impact over this person. Like obviously, if I'm getting like a guest on my show who's somebody who's like been obese, let's say, all her childhood, and then she really fought it through a fitness journey and dieting right and all, it's very inspiring. Anybody, like irrespective of like age, income, gender, would love to see something like that because they'll inspire them to fight whatever like fight they have in their life. Sometimes the target audience thing is a very funny thing, I would say, and
Hmm.
difficult to figure out.
Yes, yes.
uh, but the primary things when you put into perspective, like let's say if I'm talking about like a pop culture thing, like I'm talking about like Netflix shows and all, I know my audience mostly will be younger, coming from metropolitan cities, having worked in like XYZ and stuff like that. Like you can put them into boxes, but what
Hmm.
I'm trying to say, you still never know. So
Yeah,
I think it progresses as you go. So till I see my insights on Spotify to see like where they are coming from and who they are, I won't have an idea. And then I just
that's right.
make sure that my next episode I should cater to that same audience. I would say go like figure it out
That's
that
right.
way.
Yes, yes. I think the statistics, they come after a certain volume. So people who are like just starting
Yeah,
off, or you're just being a few months into it, I think there's no reference
yeah,
in that. Like you have to just create
true,
something, okay, that I feel I would find interesting, or something that I want people to know about. Like, like you have that feeling. I want to
yes,
share this. I have this thing where
correct,
people can learn from this or something. This thing, like very primal kind of that urges that you have to
yeah,
share
yeah,
that with, that should be more of a reference point,
Mhm.
even in domain based things where
Yeah, amazing,
everyone in a certain field would not be at the same level or having the same knowledge or interested in all the different kind of industries per se. But what you feel, you kind of at least you increase that confidence. You have some episodes down, you find an audience, and also the good thing with certain social media platforms,
Mhm.
it helps you reach a like-minded audience better. So yeah, those are, I
Correct,
think, like the more you do it, you kind of get better at it.
yeah, yeah,
Awesome, Hamza. So, most important question is, like, people start up the podcast and then you kind of get discouraged. Like
Mhm.
maybe views you're not getting, or some, in terms of the execution of the whole episode's not happening. Whoever you're inviting, nobody's kind of turning up. So how do you maintain
Hmm.
that discipline, that forget whatever the results, what I have to do, I'm doing that on time, and I'm delivering like what is expected at least out of me.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is like the podcaster's dilemma. Our biggest struggle with whatever we are doing in our life is to maintain the schedule. Now, the thing with me, I'll be honest, like it's happened with me also that I have not posted content for a very long time because we as human beings have a lot of things happening at one time. You know, we do a lot of things, and however passionate we may be about something, we have other priorities in our life that we can't sometimes keep up to, you know. So that's fine. I would say accept that first. Don't hit yourself too hard being like, I can't keep up you know, my shows and all. I think that's the wrong way to see it. It's okay to have your breaks whenever you need them and you can't do shows or episodes, it's fine. Keeping that in mind, so if you're someone who is doing it, let's say it comes under your job role or something like that, it's kind of difficult, I would say. If you're someone who's inherently inquisitive, passionate about just creating conversations, let's say for me, like when I invite people to my place, right, it's a combination of things. Like I want to like give them the best hospitality in my house. I want to have a good chat with them before I start recording. Then in the show I want to learn about their life. You know, I'm inquisitive about that. That keeps me going every time, you know. That makes me, allows me to take that effort to actually schedule it, write the script down, put down the questions, have someone be there
Hmm.
on the day of recording to make sure that it's recorded properly. So that circle of things comes from that inherent need to learn from other people and create
That's
conversation.
right.
Now if you're
Like
someone who
you I
doesn't
think
come from
as
that school of
someone
thought and is
you
just doing it
find
as
an
a,
excitement, like okay, you have that excitement that I'm going to have this
yeah,
conversation with these people and going to unravel a lot of things and learn a lot of, so that is something I think in you, that
100%.
that is the driving force for you.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Like, if it was not that, I don't know if I would be able to do podcasting, to be honest. Because the way it started, also, it started through phone conversations with my friends, you know, when they in the pandemic were just talking about the new things that they were learning or the new movies they were watching. And we would just like spend 2 hours on the phone, you know, we didn't have anything to do at that time. So I realized that this is so informative, like for a third person to just know about. And the same way today, when I started video podcasts and just started putting them up on YouTube, the first thought in my mind is never about, you know, how many subscribers or likes or comments I'll get on that video. It's just like, even if like one person goes and gets inspired or learns something new, like a new learning every day kind of concept, if somebody even has that, oh, I'm happy. Like with my job, I've done my job. That's kind of like my mindset, and that keeps me going. But keeping that in mind, again, a schedule is very important. So whenever I decide on, let's say, X podcast to be done, I create a schedule that, okay, if day one we are recording, then day two is to edit, day three is to do this, and then give like time slots, like 1 hour max to do this. And when I follow that in the sequence it's meant to, I have my podcast ready, you know, and all the other collaterals with it, because I individually do it myself, like a lot of us. So again, it becomes very important to have like a time based schedule to follow. And it's again habit and consistency. So the more consistent you get, the easier it becomes. As simple as that. So yeah.
That's right. In terms of, I feel like this schedule should be mentioned something specifically. Obviously, when you're starting off, it's not something that you are doing full time or you're earning out
Hmm.
of it. So you have to like judiciously use up your time. So the free time which you are basically wasting, like when you're in a full time job or you're studying and all, you can utilize this effectively in certain tasks that you have to do for the podcast. So I have noticed that obviously for growing
Right.
your podcast, you have to create a lot of short form content, and actually most of your time goes into that. Then the identifying the
Mhm.
people or inviting them or having the podcast. So let's be honest, like it is a mixture of a lot of things. It's not just one core thing that you like. When you're part of a particular industry, then there are other aspects maybe which you don't like. Also, you have to do those
Yeah.
to be relevant in that particular field. So kind of take that, but I feel have some kind of a schedule you commit to over a period of time. There will be time maybe it doesn't happen on, but is, I think it's a constant fight to like push yourself so that if you have decided, okay, I'm for example doing going to do these 5 episodes in this month and maybe create 10 clippings or 20 shots out of it. So those things are done by the end of it. Like that is some discipline that
Hmm.
is, and which is a reference point for people. Like if they are seeing your content or your channel, they will see, yeah, this is person is
Hmm.
kind of investing, forget views and all, at least that work is coming out,
Yeah.
which is kind of impressive that he's managing all this on his own basically. So that is something to know.
Right. Right.
Awesome. So, Hamza, now coming to a point where you've done podcasting for a few months, you then look into more of the statistics. And important
Hmm.
statistics are the engagement and maybe interaction when you have live streams or events and all. So, any kind of strategies you can say that I'm 100% you are a podcast coach, so you are also having courses, you are having the workshops, and also how do you kind of what kind of strategies you use where you have first thing for all of us is that people turn up, like there's a certain sum of people, so what
Yeah.
are the marketing strategies basically you use for that?
Uh, okay, so I always realized after so many years of doing it that your audience knows you exactly. Like they know, like if you're in your strategy trying to commit to giving them something for free or offering a discount or at a particular price, to create scarcity, they read through it. So don't do that. I would say be genuine and honest with your intentions. Like always tell them about what they learn for the time that they give you, because their time is the most important. So be honest with that. Honesty always wins according to me. And secondly, I would say always have engagement kind of exercises. Now let's say for my sessions, right, every session has something that personally involves every student in the class to do a particular action step at the end of the class, whether that may be a worksheet, a presentation, or a group activity. When you do like all these things that sort of use your skills, right, your hard skills in come in play, I think you also remember, like there's more memory that goes into it. So it's not like I've learned something about podcasting today and I've left class, that kind of a thing. So always have that. Like for example, on Spotify today, you can add questions, you can add polls, right? That's one great way to sort of increase that engagement that you need. And never close it down. I would say at the end always have some call to action that adds value for your consumer, whether that after a webinar you can sort of pitch a higher course to them and tell them that okay, if you're convinced with how podcasting can help you, like truly convinced, then I want you to like give me a chance to like really take you on this journey with me and
Hmm.
teach you, what you can learn when you actually master it. And I always also push this, that when you make marketing strategies, like say like today I sometimes say six figure personal brand, it's not like a quick rich kind of scheme. I always say that I've spent 3 years and today I'm at a place where I can say that okay, with podcasting, if you put in the effort, you can confidently earn six figures, let's say. So you don't market things that you don't believe in, because when you do that you get caught someday or the other. So being very transparent, being very honest, is the best marketing strategy according to me. Like on the webinar that I had recently, I played some music for my audience to begin with, so that they could relate to me and who I was and stuff like that. So being genuine, being honest is like according to me the best marketing strategy you can use, rather than anything technical or something from a book. Nikhil, if you can understand what I'm saying.
That's right. Employee, I'm sorry, the experience that you give to the people, like when you definitely went into that experiential uh, thing that you take care, like when they're coming, you're playing certain music. There could be also they're being
Hmm.
part of a group, like a WhatsApp group or some Telegram group, so that
Yeah,
they
a
all
community.
can come in
Yeah.
community. Is there that I think all plays into it, like um, rest of the thing are stats. Obviously the better your content, those numbers will kind of increase in that. You can go deeper into say where you are getting more of a listenership in terms of a city or a certain topic, and also and maybe you can make that your strategy within your content. But I think the few core things are there where I think we mentioned firstly the community aspect. If you have where it's just not about you or you are just just broadcasting, that is very important. And then how do you have the actual physical maybe some interactions happening, or virtual or a
Hmm.
in-person meetup is there, or you're calling a guest someone known in the industry, and then there is an interaction with them, a Q&A session or something like that. It could be, I've
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
been, so there was a particular, I think, LinkedIn influencer. He was able to get some one huge MNC's CEO. He was able to bring him on board, and we just organized a session somewhere near that guy's house. He just had like a co-working space, and he had a session. And that guy also wanted to. It was not a money thing. He just want to express himself and connect with the younger audience. And it was a great session
Mhm.
where we met a lot of like-minded people who are following that influencer, and then we interacted that guy who's like a benchmark in the industry and asked him questions and a little bit more deeper than the general thing. So it was better than just kind of a virtual interaction when in person, and that built, we all became like advocates for that particular influencer basically. Awesome.
Mm. Got it. Yeah.
That's right. We talked a little bit about the guesting, but now let's get into actually how we get this thing done. I'll also talk like how do I do it and all the technical things. But for you, so Hamza, like look at it in a way where maybe say if you are not currently doing, where you don't have like I have to call this guest, but I think going forward as your podcast will, you will have to have an aim, like say I have to get two guests in a month and they have to be of a certain background. How do you kind of go about this whole process? And then obviously we'll get into where we also being invited places and how we can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So quickly, like I would say, when you're initially starting out, try to find people in and around you, like immediately, like your immediate connections or mutuals, someone who can recommend you. The cold outreach methods are a little difficult initially, so I would say don't get that. First, get some multiple guests on your show, create some solid episodes, and then move towards that. Now, how do
Hmm.
you do that? I would say try and start finding people in maybe your locality, your college,
Hmm.
the places that you go to every day, your gym. Like I have had two or three podcast guests from my gym, and these are really people who are doing something very different in the industry. And even if you think about it, like one was a teacher, one was like a Netflix associate producer, right? Someone was the CEO of a company. These are the kind of people you'll actually meet in these areas that you roam around, but you have to go with an open mind. Like you have to
Hmm.
go with the whole thing that I have to create conversation first. I have to convince the person then, and then I sort of tell them that I want
That's
you
right.
to be on my show so that we can have a
Hmm.
larger conversation that people can sort
So
of
Hamza, the
benefit from. That's usually been my
initial guests you brought in, were they like your friends?
yeah.
Okay, okay. So that is the first, and obviously they are more. They would want to come. Obviously, they are. Everyone has a different personality. They are somebody who would want to come and express or get a certain amount of reach through your channel. Obviously.
Correct.
Okay, okay, awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
your professional domain. So somewhere where you've not met the person is just on social media. How do you like? Firstly, shortlist, and how do you approach?
Okay, so out of the hood with Hamza is a, like particularly I would say a very simple podcast to pitch to, because I
Hmm.
always tell people that it's like think about it as a conversation that we have over like coffee or a drink or something like that,
Hmm.
and it's just us talking about our life journeys.
That's
Specifically, my guest talking about his or her life journey and sharing it with people. Also, something that you have to keep in mind is when you're going the cold outreach, where a lot of people are not comfortable coming on, a show, and podcasting is something that they always think about, like how will I sound, how will I look, I've never done it before. So
hmm.
even getting that confidence and making them understand that okay, it's like just chill out and it's like a normal conversation, just
Hmm.
that you have to keep in mind that it's a little like sort of guided rather than just a open-ended one. And I tell them that it's going to be real fun, we can chat about this, chat about that, and it never ends there. It starts with a conversation before the show, and then it's like a lifelong relationship after that. So it's like me just telling another friend. So I would say go with the focus of making that person your ally, your friend first, a colleague first, and then like a guest on your show. That
That's
always
right.
works for me. And again, telling them how my audience can benefit from listening to them is something that they want to know. So yeah, these two
That's right.
things.
That's right. So I like to share like my general process and how it's been in the journey. So
Yeah.
firstly, when I had done it for my company, and many marketers, it's kind of becoming a common place where you are hosting the webinars, and also more or less you have done certain kind of panel discussions or something with respect to your company, so you're comfortable in that space, plus that content is out there. So that kind of helped me, where I
Yeah.
was then I was for my own channel, I was having these panel discussions because I had a few videos of what the company had done. So that is, I think, one thing. So where you have already created that through your company and done it. I think even for college students, Hamza, I'm sure you all are also doing certain interaction interviews, podcast on campus. So there are, be part
Yes.
of that, because at least at
Yeah.
that time through your college you will get to meet interesting people and organize events and be part of it. So yeah, that is I think first thing. Second is obviously your when you reach out. I've used you tools like Sales Navigator on LinkedIn, where you not only for your
Hmm.
own, like say freelance or something, where you are identifying, there are a lot of filters within that. So obviously, if somebody is in a particular domain, a similar say age group, or is in kind of have done certain things, because where you have certain where they have put in a lot of content, they're active on LinkedIn, they put in videos and all. You can like go through their content and who is more likely to, right? If somebody is hardly posting anything or is not done anything online, or you don't see them on social media when you look them up, then it's highly unlikely. So you have to take those calls when you kind of shortlist on some basic filters, and then when you go through their profile, there are certain things which is like a virtual filtering that you do. Okay, who is more higher probability, and then you design
Right.
campaigns. Like I have used certain tools also where you're messaging people at mass scale, like Duck Soup or something on LinkedIn. So you can say, "This is my channel, and if you would like to kind of collaborate or whatever," I say, "Okay, that's right." So obviously, initially when you're starting off, when you don't have that demand, like nobody's kind of, you have to reach a lot of people. Don't be spending a
Yeah.
lot of time in filtering, right? Just reach out. And when you interact, see, I've also noticed this, where person has a confidence and he comes down and all that, it's generally a good episode, because people who are not that confident and putting in, they generally back out. So that is there. If we
Yeah.
are kind of in an open mind, it kind of happens. So Hamza, important fact about the other end, where you where do you feel like you can be called for podcasts? Like obviously your content, when you're a little bit more popular, if people are seeing it, they'll call down. Is there any other techniques where you can have a collaboration where you are the guest, basically?
Uh, if I think what becomes the number one factor if you want people reaching out to you for their shows is,
Hmm.
as you said, content putting out. That's the number one thing, and that's key because that's the only way a person can see you in action.
Discover you in the
uh,
first place.
but apart from that, again, yeah, yeah. And apart from that, it's like, again, what is it that differentiates you, and by that person getting you on their show, how can they benefit and what
Hmm.
benefit can you have from it? So let's
That's right.
say I know that X person has an audience that I need. Then that collab is possible, and she
Hmm.
can be like, okay, I need your audience. So that's how it works. And
That's right.
differentiator, like what is different in your communication style, in how you carry yourself, in what you offer to that podcast, that will make somebody invite you also, right? Like I know, like a lot of people say this, that be like proper in how you talk and say things and all, but that's not what differentiates you. Like when you have your own tone of your voice or own way of saying things and being like super blunt, sometimes even like abusing in a podcast, I don't know, it becomes explicit, but
Hmm.
just saying that makes the population want to hear you more because they always feel like
Hmm.
the rawness that comes out is what we want to
That's
hear.
right.
So I think just being different also gets you interested, and the eyeballs come on you, and then people want you. So
That's
yeah.
right. Yes. So definitely. So when we mentioned the first thing, that the content only would drive people to connect with you, to bring you, that is the first thing. But then if that is not happening and you want to come, you have to do the reverse thing, where you are still shortlisting certain channels, and then you are making us like a sales pitch or something on that. Okay, this is my audience. Why don't we collaborate on this? And this is my
Hmm.
audience, is what basically interesting. Maybe a certain audience you can tap off mine, I can, there's an interchange happening, whatever. So put
Yes.
it down and
Yep.
then approach, so that you have. And I think today there would be some ways in which in some platforms, as well as even the openness of people, where they would like to come. I have noticed that over the last 1 year it's easier to convince people to come down to your particular show. So this is, I think, obviously with the popularity of podcasts and being used as a mainstream marketing tool and personal branding, it is kind of become easier.
Yeah.
Awesome. And lastly, Hamza, what are we looking at in terms of the future for podcasting in the trends? Obviously, it'll be, I think, more budgets would be aligned for the brands for conducting these podcasts, having regular podcasts. The founders are also doing it. A lot of freelancers are, having a podcast of their own and posting a lot of interesting content. A lot of amazing collaborations are happening. But anything other than that, any technical things that will be happening, or how the podcast, the formats and all that, what do you feel on that?
Mhm. I think you've covered like majority of it from the marketing end, so budgets and all everything. Yeah, I think it's going to become a norm now. Like how when you build your marketing department and you have a manager, it's in that list of things that you have to do.
Hmm.
Rather than something you have
Yeah.
to explore in. So for sure, it'll become a norm. From the end of creation, I would say much more platforms would start integrating podcasts into them. Like it just
Hmm.
won't be like the Spotify and the Amazon and the Googles, but you'll have smaller players coming in. The creation process in terms of the technicalities will become easier. I would say that there would be a one-in-one solution, like one-stop solution to creating your episode, like we've already
Hmm.
been seeing amongst like a lot of platforms like Riverside or something like this, that we are recording on. That would happen. And also in terms of equipment, I would say already like Maono, I don't know if you've heard about the brand, that's also the mic that I'm
Hmm.
currently using, are fitting in that sweet spot of consumers where they don't want to spend too much, at the same time they want quality, right? So that will
Hmm.
also change. Like people will start making podcasting ancillary products that are affordable for the end user to create his episodes. That will be a great factor. And also more content creation around it, more videos on YouTube like we always see. And if so, maybe one day there'll be a platform
Hmm.
solely and solely only for podcasts, like a YouTube for
Yeah,
podcasts.
yeah, and
Maybe I
also
don't
I
know if
think
that happens.
the collaboration platform, where if you want to be a guest or you want to call on
Yes.
guests, that things, I think it's still the Indian market. I'm not sure what players are there who are doing it. I think that should be
Yeah.
some good players we want in that, so that the whole process is easier for calling people on or coming on other people's channels and all.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, there is a platform like called Guest.io, which is there in the US.
Hmm.
So you basically go and you can find audiences that fit your budget also, because like they charge
Hmm.
you, so you can
Hmm.
really filter it out that you want to pay $10 or $200 to have a guest.
Hmm.
And they've smartly got some industry leaders on it to
Hmm.
promote it. But again, from the Indian audience's perspective, it's not fitting us, right? So as you
Hmm.
said, there will be more options in that space as well, where you can just go and get done. Also, I feel like brands will give more opportunities to podcasters to promote their products and services, and they'll pay them well also for it. So yes, that's another thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. So if Hamza, you look at like last 2 years, what has happened on YouTube, where you have the
Hmm.
podcasting separate, like where you can put your playlist as a particular podcast, as well as when you are looking at
Yeah.
your feed and you want to click on, there's a podcasting section, so only podcasts will come. We look at reels, uh, majority is podcast
Hmm.
clippings, so we know where the
Yes.
thing is going. And all the tools, like it's the platforms are making specific things for podcasters. That is very kind of something to note of. Technical things, Hamza, you just recently Lex Friedman had with Mark Zuckerberg, they had that Oculus headset,
Hmm.
and they had like a
Yeah.
virtual kind of podcast where they could like see each other, like in front, face to face. So
Hmm.
those all experiences with
Hmm.
these technologies, I think that's a little bit
Oh
more
yeah.
going, a little bit more in the future. But it's already
Future.
there, and it will
Correct.
be maybe a few years down the line we will be able to do the podcasts like that. Marketing point of view, it'll have more budget. So in the event marketing space, which is anyway compounding year on year, it's increasing where the companies are investing in that, because people don't want to be sold to,
Yeah.
advertising. And also we want you just inform, educate, entertain them. So podcasting will,
Yeah.
within event marketing, the budgets will increase. We'll have like specific shows. Every particular company after a certain level and marketing efforts, they will have to have these now they're having webinars and all, which is also the viewership is going down. So I think if you have more podcasts within that
Mhm.
space, that in different kind of interesting
Yeah.
topics, that will also kind of work out. So a lot of interesting things coming up in the podcasting space. Awesome. So I think it's
Yeah.
been a great session here with Hamza. He is obviously a podcast coach also. And obviously, before we wrap up a little bit about specifically the podcasting coach aspect, you can tell, my audience, and also like, what are you looking at? Like anything
Mhm.
more interesting from personally from your end that you are working on?
Basically, right now, I'm shifting gears a little bit. So I am transitioning into promoting podcasts on the more corporate level and amongst audiences who kind of need to know more about it. So I'm trying to get it at a level where we can reach more people. So basically now, sort of transitioning from one to many sessions and going and joining like the corporate space. So again, I can't reveal much because this project is sort of under construction. But what I'm going to do is focus more on getting kids involved in podcasts like from a really young age. So this is for them to understand like all aspects of it and also really understand how it can impact their life as they sort of grow older, you know. So this is going to be a lot of sessions, 2 hours, 4 hour sessions, and uh, it's going to revolutionize the way podcasting has been seen. And I believe that as individuals like how we are, who are constantly talking about it online, right, and getting people on our shows, there's one way in which I feel a lot of other fellow podcasters involved, it, and we can really like push this wave ahead, as I say. So that's happening. Apart from that, the show is going to continue. Most probably by the end of this year we move into a more professional looking space where our equipment is stationed and we can call our guest and do the podcast and then leave the place. So that's what I'm planning for. And also I think I am going to go back to the shorter courses that I had. So I transitioned from like a low ticket to a high ticket, but what I realized is what the audience actually needs right now is not the high ticket one, it's the low ticket, to just get them introduced first. So in terms of the monetary way, I might be doing a disservice to myself, but I believe that it's like of service to the audience. So we're gonna go back to like a 499 and 599 course where in 2 hours they can understand everything about podcasting that they have to sort of go ahead and start a basic podcast. So yeah, these are three major
That's it.
developments that are gonna happen in
Hamza,
yeah.
you can tell the audience the courses of yours which are live and in which platforms.
Okay, so currently, like if you follow me on Instagram, it's Hamza Chitalwalla, and hopefully, I think through this podcast you can connect with me. So we have currently a long-term, 4 weeks course which we call the 28 days podcast mastery challenge, wherein 4 weeks we divide into week number one is having the right mindset as a podcaster and communicator. Week two are about the technicalities, so topic, title, and how to figure all of that out. Week three is execution, so I teach you step by step how to record, what equipment to use and stuff like that. And week four, I teach you steps that you can take in order to promote your podcast to your audiences and really monetize it. And for this specific course, what I did is I issued a bonus which was like a one-on-one call for anyone to clear all their doubts after the course. And I also shared certain tools that we as modern day podcasters use, like even Nikhil, you might be knowing them, these AI tools and all that we use for
Mm,
a script writing and all, or for creating reels and stuff, like
mm.
video.ai and stuff. So that is what I sort of bring to the audience and tell them that after you've got a few episodes down, then start using these tools to ease the process and be more consistent. So yes, if anybody's interested, they can get the 28 days podcast mastery challenge by just sending me a DM on Instagram. That's the best place to do it right now.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Hamza, thanks a lot for taking out your valuable time and coming on for the MI podcast. Thanks a
Thank you
lot.
so much, Nikhil. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. It was great having you. And to the audience, the MIM podcast is on all the major podcast platforms as well as on YouTube. So please subscribe and follow us. And a lot of interesting people are coming down on the MI podcast, not only talking about marketing media, but also their unique perspective and the experiences they've had in their life. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time. I'll see you. Take care.
See you guys. Bye.